we've got to talk about Bill Maher today because he actually talked about something that's really quite interesting. And I think he is most definitely on point. And that is the Democrat Party very well may be completely over. And no, I'm not exaggerating just for, a clickbaity intro or anything like that. Legitimately, the Democrat Party may be over. With that being said, let's dive in.
California is projected to lose 3 seats, New York 2, also going to lose a seat, Minnesota, Oregon, Rhode Island, Illinois, all blue states. Who's getting these? Texas, Florida, Idaho, and Utah. I mean, this looks like game over, and the reason why people are voting with their feet is a lot of what your book is about.
Yeah,
taxes and regulation. I certainly been screaming about it forever. I did 3 years with a sign here that said, how long is it going to take me to get my solar hooked up? 3 years. Talking about it on television in this state. You couldn't do it. This state has almost 400,000 regulations. I just put in a new roof because the fire, I thought, oh, let's get a roof that's not going to burn up. 2 inspections. Why are you inspecting my roof? It's my fucking roof. If it falls on me, that's my problem. And we're taxed more than any other state. People are leaving these kind of states for places where they're not, they feel the heavy breath of government on them. It's not that hard for Democrats to understand this, but they seem to be incapable of doing anything about it.
So we poll this. They're leaving on cost of living. That's all part of it. They're leaving because they can't afford homes. And it's a huge, not just political problem, those numbers you just gave. After 2030, if that holds, a Democrat could win every state Kamala Harris won, win Michigan, win Pennsylvania, and I'm just blanking on the third blue wall state, win Michigan, win Pennsylvania, and win Wisconsin, and lose the presidential election, right? The blue wall would no longer be enough for them to win. And you have to take that.
You mean they could win those 3 states and still lose
the presidential? That's how bad it is, right?
Wow.
And that's because they are driving people out, working class families out of the states they govern because the cost of living is too high. And the cost of living is too high in part for regulatory reasons, in part for taxes. But the big problem is they just don't have enough of the things people need. Not enough homes, not enough energy, not a government capable of delivering, and they've been treating that as not a real problem. You were talking about your solar sign. California high-speed rail, it's a huge disaster, but nobody's ever done anything about it. If you tried to build it again, it would go the exact same way.
High-speed rail?
Yeah, California's high-speed rail.
I think we first passed it in 2008. Mm-hmm. I think they just voted about something about it again. It's projected. Just give up. Just to build, I think, from Bakersfield to Merced. Who the hell wants to go from Bakersfield to Merced? And they couldn't do that.
I went out and toured this for the book. And the people...
Yeah. Top to bottom, the Democrat Party is cooked. Because not only are they governing their states so terribly that they're losing population, which is shifting the Electoral College in dramatic fashion. Not only that, but when you look at some of the other things that they're doing, like a high-speed rail, that shouldn't be, obviously it's not the easiest thing to do, but it shouldn't be overly complicated. You should be able to accomplish that, right? But they can't even do that. You can't even do that. I don't see how the Democrats will recover from this, especially in a general election, because when all of your examples of you running the show on your own, when all of those examples are absolutely horrible, you look at New York, you look at Illinois, you look at California, you look at all of these all of these blue states, they're run horribly. So what do they have to run on? Because if this entire country was run the way California is, could you imagine how terrible it would be? How absolutely garbage this country would be? So I don't see how they could win. And you just heard him talk about how even if they won the blue wall following 2030, that won't even be enough anymore.
Great to be with you, Shannon, from California, where people are leaving in their droves. The exodus has been going on for years and looks like it's continuing. It's already affected California's representation in the Congress. We've already lost one House seat because of the population shifts, and the projection is that we'll lose 4 or 5 if this continues, and other states as well. You see that in New York and Illinois. And so the number of people who are running away from the California model, the blue state model really, which has been exported across the country, which is this terrible combination of high taxes, regulations that make it impossible to run a business, and the climate extremism in particular that raises the cost of everything, especially housing. This is what's so ironic of Kamala Harris making housing a big thing in the start of her failed campaign, is that it's actually Democrat policies that are causing the housing crisis, the environmental regulations, the labor regulations, the taxes. People just can't afford to live in blue states. That's why they're leaving. And it's going to have a big effect on the Electoral College unless they massively change course. I don't see any sign of that. So the real answer is, to stop the exodus, you've got to elect Republicans in these blue states.
I don't think that's going to happen. Like I said, my prediction is that the Democrat Party will change eventually, and it'll have a transformation similar to what the Republican Party has recently had. Obviously, I don't think this is the same Republican Party of old. This is a new Republican Party, 1,000%. We don't have the rhinos like the Liz Cheneys of the world accepted in this party. That's not what this party stands for or backs at all. So I think the Democrat Party will have to have a similar transformation, but that won't happen until well into the 2030s. They're going to be in denial following 2028 and maybe the midterms 2030. That's when they'll begin that shift, and the far left will branch off from the Democrat Party. So the Democrat Party will have to build itself up. So I don't think, basically, long story short, they won't be winning. I don't think Democrats will win another election until nearly 2040, if not, somewhere in the 2040s. It's going to be quite a while, unless a Republican comes along and royally F's up. I don't see the Democrats winning, especially when you have, the prospects looking like this, where Florida gains 4, Texas gains 4, Cali drops 3 or 4, and New York does the same, 2 or 3. You've got all of your blue states dropping and the red states are gaining. So you've got no shot. You've got no shot. It's not even going to be close, right? They have literally pushed everybody away, top to bottom. It's not even just the policies. It's not just the policies and the overregulation. We could talk about, as well as the cost of living. Democrats seem to think that just throwing dollars at something means that you're going to solve a problem. We see that's not the case. That throwing dollars at something doesn't magically solve the problem, because we see that with the homeless issue. We saw that in California. They've thrown millions upon millions upon millions of dollars at the homeless issue, and yet they still have a lot of homeless people on the streets, living on the streets. Money is not the issue. It's not. Point blank. But then also we can talk about how the Democrats just blatantly lie. So much so that the Democrats have begun to lie so much that regular people who I would have assumed would have just been Democrats are now seeing the light because the Democrats have lied so much. I was of the belief that everybody that was going to shift to the right and vote Republican had basically already shifted, right? I think Trump had already brought on as many Democrats as possible. I thought the bleeding from the Democrat Party was basically stopped. Well, I can happily admit that I was wrong. The Democrat Party is still bleeding supporters. Here's the video of a young lady, and I shared this video with you guys actually a couple of weeks ago, but I want to show it to you guys again. Check it out.
I cannot tell you how refreshing it was to wake up this morning and hear from other Democrats and see on my post other Democrats who are just as furious and ready to friggin' jump ship as I am. I'm not buying into what they're selling, because after what we saw yesterday, I'm actually glad that they pulled that yesterday, because people like me who have been disillusioned by the Democratic Party for a long time got to see an evilness there, got to see a diabolical side of the Democratic Party who's basically saying, We want you to fail. We don't care if you fail. It's like the scene in The Wizard of Oz when they finally go back to see the great Oz and they pull the curtain back and it's just a little old man just standing there like that doesn't have a fucking clue. I'm not going to be afraid to like voice my opinion anymore. I'm done. I am done. I am done. And you're not going to bully me off my own page by thinking logical thoughts. I'm not going to be gaslit by my own party. Not one day more. Not one day more.
The Democrat Party has turned their own voters against them, minus the far left. People that were still blinded by the smokescreen are now starting to see through it, and there was evidence of it right there in that video clip that I just showed you. I mean, time and time again, Democrats continue to shoot themselves in the foot. They're so fucked. Like, I'm honestly having a good time watching it. Truthfully, I really am. And the crazy part is, in order for them to solve this, it's actually quite simple. I'm not going to give them the answers, obviously. At least what I believe the answers are, because, hey, when your enemy is destroying themselves, right? Don't interrupt them. I think the quote is something like that. Obviously, I don't mean Democrats are legitimate enemies, but I think that's the way the quote is. You know, when your adversary is destroying themselves, don't interrupt them. Let them hey, carry on, carry on. And to any former Democrat, you're always welcome on this side of the political aisle. 1000%. We are not who Democrats claim that we are, i.e. RFK Jr., i.e. Tulsi Gabbard, right? Being in the Republican Party. Democrats, one being a Democrat who tried to run for president as a Democrat. Another is a former Democrat congresswoman. So we are accepting of everyone. Unlike the Democrat Party, who's not accepting of everyone. They truly are, goodness gracious. There's so much that I can say about the Democrat Party right now, but yeah, man, I genuinely don't see how they recover anytime soon. How they just magically turn this around at this point. Even in the ways that I think they should turn it around, I don't even think that would be enough at this point, because they've just gone too far. They've shown people who they really are, right? With the whole sitting down with DJ Daniels when he was being honored, folding their arms. No, we're not going to cheer for a 12-year-old boy because we're mad. They showed people who they really are. And on top of that, we've seen how their policies are absolutely terrible, and people are voting with their feet by leaving the blue states. So they've got literally nothing to run on. Nothing. But that's just me. I'm just a guy who talks on the internet from time to time. What do you think? Let me know. Peace and love. I'm out.